Hello everybody and welcome to another video, and today we're sort of revisiting an artist I've covered once before, and I say that just purely because the artist I'm going to be looking at is a guy called Jamie Madrox, who is part of the group Twisted, a band that I've covered before. I'm going to be looking at some of his solo material today. So I have kind of heard this guy before, but also not really, because we're looking, like I said, we're looking at his solo stuff, and this stuff came before he was a member of Twisted, as I understand it. So it could be quite different to what I've heard. Because when I first listened to Twisted, I first heard of the band mentioned through the songs of Insane Clown Posse. So I made the rather incorrect assumption that they were going to sound similar to ICP. And it turned out that they were quite different in a very good way. And I really enjoyed the track that I looked at. So I kind of know what to expect from this guy, but I kind of don't, because I have heard some of his material, but in a different setting. So the solo stuff could be completely different, and I'm really just talking utter rubbish right now, aren't I? Anyway, I did a little bit of research on the guy, and there is a huge amount of information to go through, mostly talking about the different stages of his career. But I've just gone for the very basic stuff. Jamie Madrox, otherwise known as James Michael Spaniolo, as he was born in 1975. He's an American rapper from Detroit, Michigan, and is one of the members of the band Twisted. His stage name, Jamie Madrox, is excuse me, a reference to the Marvel Comics character Multiple Man. There you go. Now, as I said, we're looking at some of his solo stuff. I believe this is actually off his debut album called Fatso, spelled with a PH. And it's a track called Tearjerker. I had this one suggested to me quite a few times, actually, since I did that Twisted track. So we're going to be looking at that today. We haven't looked at any sort of rap or hip-hop for a while that I can recall. So, you know, mix things up a bit. So we'll jump into the track now, see what we've got. So we've got Tearjerker from Jamie Madrox. Let's have a look.
This song right here is dedicated to my mom, to my pops, to my family, to my daughter, to the people that I know and love today.
I was the product of two people that never got along. I was named after a song they heard the night I was born. I was probably never planned, but you know how it go. Pops was strong and had it all under control. Moms was on and bored and couldn't wait to leave, but she was pregnant now and still a mother to be. And because of that fact, she stayed and put up with his shit and took everything that motherfucker could dish. Believe it wasn't easy, and from what I'm told, then again I don't remember, I was 2 years old. I was too young to know, and see the tears in her eyes. I wonder why every night she would cry and pray to die. That's some fucked up shit, but I was so carefree, like every other child, just living a fantasy. Never thought for a second, considered it wasn't real. If it wasn't, should I change the way that I feel? Just like a parent wanna shield you from love and pain, no matter how much inside that you're suffering. A true sacrifice, like the wings of a dove, and it's real because it's all love coming again. Just like a parent wanna shield you from love and pain, no matter how much inside that you're suffering. A true sacrifice, like the wings of a dove, and it's real because it's all love coming again. Moms is tripping and pops is chilling, brainstorming, trying to come up on 1 million or even 1,000. A few hundred will be right on time, cause them bills is piling up and we falling further behind. And debt collectors banging and calling the phone. When they would come to our house, we would pretend we wasn't home, standing in the wick line, free honey and cheese with gratuity baskets from local charities. It's not fresh at all when you're going to school and can't afford to dress just like the cool kids do. So would use textbooks and last year's shoes. I was destined to never make it to the lights of high school. Time passed and pops got sick and fell ill, and everything went downhill. And when the SSI checks didn't cover the bills, not even close, mom kept the and the change dealt. I went to school and all the kids in my class attended a special mass to acknowledge that he passed. Wanted to cry, but not in front of my peers and not in front of a priest. So I wiped away tears and swallowed the whole sorrow like a bit of belief, and pray to God to let me talk to him every night when I sleep. Just like a parent wanna shield you from all the pain, no matter how much inside that you're suffering. A true sacrifice like the wings of a dove, and it's real because it's all love coming again. Just like a parent wanna shield you from all the pain, no matter how much inside that you're suffering. A true sacrifice like the wings of a dove, and it's real because it's all love coming again. A true sacrifice like the wings of a dove, and it's real because it's all love coming again. Just like a parent wanna shield you from all the pain, no matter how much inside that you're suffering. A true sacrifice like the wings of a dove, and it's real because it's all love coming again.
Well, there you go. That was Tearjerker by Jamie Madrox. And that is actually quite a subject-wise, a very heavy song. You know, he's talking about his life growing up in a family that's struggling financially. His mother and father seemingly didn't get along too well, but he still had respect for both of them, and or some level of respect for both of them, so it seems. So, you know, it's the subject matter is actually pretty heavy. So, the song itself, it opens up with this song right here is dedicated to my mom, to my pops, to my family, to my daughter, to the people that I know and love to this day. I was the product of two people that never got along. I was named after a song I heard the night I was born. I was probably never planned, but you know how it'd go. Pops was strong and had it all under control. Mom's was on and bored and couldn't wait to leave, but she was pregnant now and still a mother-to-be. And because of that fact, she stayed and put up with his and took everything that the could dish. Believe it wasn't easy, and from what I'm told, then again I don't remember, I was 2 years old. I was too young to know or see the tears in her eyes and wonder why every night she would cry and pray to die. That's some up, but I was so carefree, like every other child, just living a fantasy, never thought for a second, considered it wasn't real. If it wasn't, should I change the way that I feel? So just within that first verse there, he's saying, you know, he's the product of two people who didn't get along. So there's obviously some conflict between the mother and father, and it shows throughout the thing. You know, the mother wanted to leave because she was fed up with the husband or whatever. You know, he was dealing out all kinds of. No, it says putting up with his shit, whether that be he was abusive or maybe he was just a lazy layabout bum. It doesn't actually specify. It says that every night she would cry and pray to die. You know, so she obviously didn't feel good in their relationship, but because she was pregnant, because she was expecting a child, she stayed with this guy, you know, to try and maintain a sort of stable family environment for when the kid came along. And, you know, as a kid, he had no idea that this sort of thing was going on. You know, he was completely carefree. To him, everything was perfect. You know, his parents were, you know, his parents, and they obviously loved each other the way that he saw it when he was a child. But he's saying, you know, sort of looking back, you know, if he'd known at the time, how differently would he have felt, you know, had he known? So, you know, just the opening part, you know, shows where this sort of thing is going. And then it goes into the chorus, just like a parent want to shield you from all the pain, no matter how much inside that you're suffering. A true sacrifice like the wings of a dove. It's all, and it's real because it's all love coming again. And that's repeated twice. So, you know, just like a parent want to shield you from all the pain. You know, because that's what a parent does. That's what any good parent does. You know, they want to shield their child from the pain and the suffering of the world. And he's saying, you know, just like a parent, I want to shield you from the pain. You know, I don't want you to suffer as much as, you know, as you are. So then carries on. Mum is tripping and Pops is chilling, brainstorming, trying to come up with 1,000,000 or even 1,000. A few hundred will be right on time, because them bills is piling up and we're falling further behind. And Debt Collect is banging and calling the phone. When they would come to our house, we would pretend we wasn't home. Standing on the wick line, not sure what that is, for free honey and cheese, then gratuity baskets from local charities. It's not fresh at all when you're going to school and you can't afford to dress like the other cool kids do. So, with used textbooks and last year's shoes, I was destined to never make it to the likes of high school. Time passes and Pops got sick and fell ill, and everything went downhill. And when them SSI checks didn't cover the bills, not even close, Mum kept the boat afloat as we coast into next year. So, you know, in this one, he's saying Mum is tripping, Pops is chilling, brainstorming, trying to come up with 1,000,000 or even 1,000. You know, so obviously at this point they're really struggling with money, and they're trying everything they can to try and support the family financially. And, you know, the debt collectors are banging on the door, calling them up all the time, and they're just sort of pretending they're not home, trying to hide from them. You know, it says standing on the wick line. I'm not sure what that is. You know, that could, you know, is that like the bread line, or, you know, I can't think of the word I'm looking for here. You know, so social security, you know, for benefits and stuff like that, possibly. You know, it says free honey and cheese, and then gratuity baskets from local charities. So I'm guessing that's like food banks and stuff like that, helping people. It says it's not fresh at all when you're going to school and you can't afford to dress like the cool kids do. So obviously he's wearing things like hand-me-downs, because it says used textbooks and last year's shoes. So he's basically wearing hand-me-downs and, you know, like clothes that are like really cheap and recycled, essentially. And then it says when them SSI checks, I'm guessing again that's probably social security insurance checks or whatever, I'm not entirely sure. You know, they didn't even cover the bills because his father got ill, so they were having to pay for his medical care, and what money they were getting wasn't covering it, so it fell on his mum to, you know, do whatever she could to try and keep the family afloat. You know, since he wasn't able to do it anymore, everything fell on his mum. Then it goes back into that chorus again. Just like a parent want to shield you from all the pain, no matter how much inside you're suffering. A true sacrifice like the wings of a dove, and it's real because it's all love coming again and again. That's repeated twice. Then it goes, I see Pops even less than before, but he is living in the same house behind the bedroom door. It's always closed again, and he's sleeping, no doubt. A rare occasion be a bathroom break would bring him out. And I get to see him for a second just to say, hey, how you doing? Good to see you awake. Are you okay? For him, no reply. Yeah, Jamie, I'm fine. And the same night leave my world without saying goodbye. Can you imagine the rage of pain that I felt? I was too shocked to cry while accepting the change dealt. I went to school and all the kids in my class attended a special mass to acknowledge that he passed. I wanted to cry, but not in front of my peers and not in front of a priest, so I wiped away tears and swallowed the whole sorrow like a bit of relief and prayed to God to let me talk to him every night when I sleep. And then it goes into that chorus, repeated again. So, you know, at this point he says, you know, he's seeing his father even less than before. And even though he's still living in the same house, you know, he doesn't see him at all because he's shut in his bedroom because he's so ill. He doesn't leave the room. He's always sleeping. And very rarely, occasionally, you know, his dad will sort of get up and sort of shuffle his way to the bathroom. And, you know, he'll see him in passing, and he'll try to say hello to his dad, you know, say, oh, you know, it's good to see you up and about. But you won't get any reply from his dad because, you know, he's either so out of it or, you know, he just can't acknowledge the people around him. You know, so it's kind of quite sad. And he's saying, you know, he sees his dad, you know, this, that, and the other, and then that same night his dad dies without, you know, having a chance to say goodbye to his family, and he's like, can you imagine the rage of pain that I felt? You know, how angry I am at the fact that I never got to say goodbye, the fact that he never said goodbye to me. You know, and he went to school, and all the kids, you know, all his kids' friends and stuff like that, you know, they all came to the funeral to say goodbye to his dad, and he basically suppressed all of his sadness, you know, because he didn't want to cry in front of his friends, he didn't want to cry in front of the priest, you know, he wanted to come across as a strong, tough individual, you know, so he sort of buried all his pain and anguish. It says at the bottom, you know, I pray to God to let me talk to him every night when I sleep. So he still thinks about his dad before he goes to bed of a night. So, you know, it's quite a heavy song. And I kind of see why it's called Tearjerker. And, you know, this is from his debut album. So, you know, it's a pretty substantial track, and it was quite good. I quite liked it. It was very basic in its musical style, you know, there wasn't any particularly overpowering elements, you know, it was relatively subtle, and but still having that sort of hip-hop vibe / element to the music, so, you know, it was a pretty decent track. Not bad. I can see why the song has been recommended so much, because it has got that sort of very powerful story behind it. And, you know, I've said multiple times, I like tracks that actually have a meaning, that have a story behind it. And I have said on occasion, a lot of hip hop, rap sort of music don't necessarily have deep meanings or stories, but they have a lot more deeper meanings behind them than a lot of, say, chart pop songs, you know. And this is another misconception that's thrown around, is things like heavy metal and music like this don't have deep meanings to it. I mean, you've got songs like Toy Soldiers by Eminem, you know, which is about rappers getting shot in, you know, gang warfare, you know, and having beef with other rappers and them getting, you know, people shot just over disagreements. You know, you have songs like that which have a strong and deep meaning. And, you know, this one, another strong and deep meaning, you know. So it's a common misconception that all these types of music that people for some reason see as violent and aggressive do actually have deeper meanings within them, if people would only take the time to pay attention and actually listen to what they're talking about. But there you go. I can't really think of much else to say about that track, so we'll leave that as it is. Now, if anybody would like to suggest a track for me to react to, then please do so. By all means, you can drop a comment in the comment section below, or message me on my Facebook or my Instagram, or you could even message me through Patreon, where you could also help to support this channel, which would be a great help to me, since I don't actually make anything from any of these videos. All of my videos get demonetized because, you know, I've got another person's material within the video. My entire video gets demonetized. I don't see anything from it. So, you know, if you would care to help support this channel, that would be great. You know, that would be very helpful. There is an option within Patreon where you can get your suggestion jumped to the front of the queue, should you wish to do so. There is a limitation on how frequently you can do that, but the option is there should you so desire it. If you suggest a track through regular means like Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube comments, do know it could take me a while to get around to your suggestion, since I do get suggested so many tracks every single day that my list grows faster than I can record the videos. But I do write down every suggestion I get, so it'll get done eventually. It just might take me a while to get around to it. Also, Metalhead Reacts is a proud supporter of the Sophie Lancaster Foundation, a British-based charity whose main goal is to put an end to hate crimes. And one of the many facets of that is hate crimes against people of the alternative culture, which is actually how the foundation came into being in the first place. And it's something I believe in very, very strongly, and something that gets very widely ignored. As something that really needs more attention bringing to it. Because every day, all around the world, people from the alternative community are getting violently attacked just purely for the fact that they are members of the alternative community. You know, and we're not talking about silly little things like name calling or, you know, getting shoulder rammed as you're walking down the street. We're talking about real violent crimes where People are getting brutally attacked and violently beaten to the point where people are getting hospitalized with broken bones, and sometimes even more life-threatening injuries. But it's getting widely ignored and nothing's getting done about it, and that is something that really, really needs to change. Every single day we hear about all these other hate crimes like sexism, racism, homophobia, transphobia, religious hatred, ableism, etc. We hear these every single day, from the most violent and heinous of these crimes, where someone is murdered because of the colour of their skin, because of their religious beliefs, or because of their sexual identity, down to the most petty and pathetic of these crimes, where entitled white woman is calling the police because a family of colour are having a picnic in a public space. We hear about these every single day in every platform of media. We hear every facet of these crimes all the time, but we never hear anything about these people that are getting beaten to within an inch of their lives just because of their taste in music and clothing. The last time we heard anything about this was 13 years ago, when Sophie Lancaster and her boyfriend Rob Maltby were violently attacked and brutally beaten to so severely that they both ended up in comas. They were attacked by a group of 5 or 6 people, punched, kicked, knocked to the ground, and stamped on. They had their heads stamped on so violently that they ended up in comas. And Rob Maltby, he thankfully survived. He was in a coma for around about a week, maybe a little bit longer. I can't remember exactly how long. But he thankfully survived. Sophie Lancaster, on the other hand, she was in a coma for 13 days before she succumbed to her injuries, and she died. This young woman was 20 years old, and she was beaten to death just because of her taste in music and clothing. And like I said, this happened 13 years ago, and we haven't heard a thing about it since. We haven't heard a thing similar since. Yeah, I know for a fact there have been several hundred, if not several thousand, similar cases over the years, but we've not heard anything because no one's died. And that is disgusting. We shouldn't have to wait for someone to lose their life before this subject gets spoken about. We shouldn't have to wait for someone to die. We shouldn't have to wait for someone to get murdered over something so petty before this subject, before people sort of sit up and take notice of the fact that this is a real problem. What happened to Sophie Lancaster was an absolute travesty. It was diabolical, and it's something we must never allow to happen ever again. And it's something that never ever should have happened in the first place, but because it gets widely ignored, the people committing these crimes think that they can just get away with it, because nothing's getting done about it. No one seems to care about it, and that is not good enough. That needs to change. It needs to stop. And this is what the Sophie Lancaster Foundation is all about. They want to bring more attention to the fact that this is a very real problem, that this is going on a daily basis, that people are struggling and suffering over such a sad and pathetic little reason. You don't violently attack someone because they like different movies or TV shows to you. You don't violently attack someone because they like different flavoured foods to you. So why do you attack someone because they like different music to you? And even so, it's only heavy metal that seems to evoke this reaction. People don't get beaten to within an inch of their life because they listen to Neil Diamond. People don't get beaten to within an inch of their life because they like country music or opera or classical music. It's only people who listen to heavy metal that seem to get this violence thrown at them for no good reason. And that needs to change, because it is a very real problem, and it's only a matter of time before what happens to Sophie Lancaster happens again. And that cannot be allowed to happen. If we carry on ignoring it, it's going to happen sooner or later, and we can't allow that to come forth. Something needs to be done. And this is what the Sophie Lancaster Foundation is all about. They want to bring more attention to the fact that this is happening so they can stop it from ever happening again. They don't want to see another family go through what they went through when they had to watch their daughter slowly die over the course of 13 days. Nobody should lose their life just because they like a different kind of music. It's unacceptable. So if you'd like to find out more about the Sophie Lancaster Foundation, there is a link to their website in the description below. You can pop over there, find out what they're working on at the moment, find out what their goal is, because they can explain it a lot better than I can. And if you can help them out in any small way, obviously don't feel obligated to do so, but if you can help them out in any small way, whether it be like a small donation through their website or something as simple as one of these Sophie wristbands, or maybe even that one, they've got a whole bunch of other stuff as well. The smallest amount can make the biggest difference, and the sooner we bring more attention to this, the sooner we get more people talking about this, the sooner we can help to stamp out prejudice, hatred, and intolerance everywhere. But I'm going to leave that as it is for the time being. Thank you all very, very much for watching. I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.
Just like a parent wanna shield you from all the pain, no matter